Thanks for coming. Really excited for tonight. We're going to be sharing with you a film and also having a nice conversation about the work. But without any further ado, I want to introduce Chief Janice George to do a land acknowledgement. Over to you, Chief. Oh, you're on mute.
It's better without mute. Tanoia bensequados, I shop tanoia, Japchemia Siam Pachamama na Tanachin plus not as Kahomish Uhumeoch on one and swallowing. On behalf of the Weavers here tonight and the three nations of the Weavers, I just want to welcome you to this beautiful place that we live in. Invite you to go to Cathedral Park and feel that beautiful energy that the Weavers have designed for you, and also invite you to contemplate the energy is the same as that the Weavers have put out, as all the ancestors have put out. So when you're in this territory, you know, I invite you to open your mind and heart and feel the energy from the ancestors. Osia.
Thanks, Chief Janice George. That was really good. Feel a little more calm now after hearing that. I'm still feeling a bit antsy. I think just because I'm really excited for tonight. We've sort of put this project together as a team over the last year, but it's been a project that's been in the works for years, and of course it connects to thousands of years of history and culture on this land. So it was a really big and important project, and it's really exciting that we now are here to talk about it tonight, to have a conversation, and to share a film that was made by Pachamama in collaboration with you three and Buddy as well. So yeah, really excited. There's a couple of little housekeeping notes I want to mention. If anyone has any accessibility issues on the event, we have Gabriel who will, you can maybe Gabriel, if you want to say hi. I know you have your video off, but we have a tech host tonight that will help us with any technical issues. Hi. So he's our handy sort of kind of look under the hood and make the car run again if it stalls. So that's really exciting. So thanks for that. Just want to acknowledge that. And I also want to acknowledge that the festival is on today. So as of yesterday, it's a 3-week festival. There's 2 events a night, every night for 3 weeks. And there's over 60 murals. There's tours you can go on. If you're really inspired by what you hear tonight, you can actually go on tours. Pay what you can options if you can't pay the price for the tour. Just let us know. And there's 3 kinds of tours. There's a Black Strathcona Resurgence Project tour. There's the Hidden Gems tour, and there's the Foundations tour. Check our website for more. Absolutely, if you're getting excited about that kind of thing. Also, we have a survey. I know, very exciting. Everyone loves surveys, but we're trying to learn more about how well we're doing, because we serve a lot of people in a lot of different communities. And if you can take the time to do a survey, I would give you a hug, I guess, digitally. I'm so happy if you do that, because it would help us a lot, because we think we're doing different kinds of work, but maybe we're not doing as well, or maybe we're doing really well in certain areas and we should do more. So let us know. And before also we start, I wanted to just thank the sponsors for this project. There are a lot of sponsors for this project because to do really good work, you need really good resources. So I just want to thank Quadrille Property Group, BC Hydro, the City of Vancouver's Cultural Services Grant Program, Parks Board Vancouver, Downtown Vancouver BIA, and Destination Canada, who sponsored the film we're about to watch. So super cool on that. For tonight, we're gonna do the film. It's 12.5 minutes. I know it's a little longer than normal attention spans these days, but we're gonna watch it. It's absolutely exciting. We just saw, I guess, got finished today, right, first of all. So just in the nick of time. That's great. That's kind of how we do things at Mural Festival. The paint's sort of dried, I guess, is the metaphor. And as you can see, there's the link. And then after we watch it, we're gonna have a chance to have discussion. And so the artist will speak. Weavers will speak. Not just, this isn't art, by the way. We'll get to that later. This is something a lot more than art. And and yeah, and then you have a chance for Q&A to be able to chat, send quick questions in the chat as people are talking. We'll gather a few of those questions and then get a chance to hear from the weavers as well at that. So that's kind of the plan. It's an hour long. So without further ado, we decided to not show the video through Zoom. We did a test. It didn't look very good. So we're going to give you a link. So you'll go away from Zoom, go on mute. I guess you are on mute. That's good. Watch the film. And then come back in 13 minutes and then we'll discuss. Is there anything else that we should mention, Crystal? You want to just quickly introduce it?
Yeah, well, thanks, Adrian. Pleasure for us to be here. I don't want to keep it too long because I know the day the real heroes of this story is Debra and Chief Janice, but I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to everyone. It was a pleasure. Debra, it was a pleasure, right? It was a true honor for us to be able to do this, and we couldn't be more excited to share it with everyone. Like we were talking with Adrian and with Debra, this is, there's so many things we could do, so many stories we could be telling in the next coming years, but this at least is the beginning. And we're trying to set at least the groundwork to keep telling the stories and keep doing justice, right, for the history of the First Nation people here in the area that we live. So yeah, without further ado, just so if everyone knows, I was directing and Oli here was producing, but like I said, the real heroes of the story are you guys, and Adrian, you never get enough credit. So I want to give you as well big credit for everything you did for this project. So thanks to you guys.
Thanks, but yeah, you're right. We're exactly what we're totally in service, but yes, also hard work. But yeah, thank you. Okay, well, that's really exciting. So we're all gonna like watch the film now. I'm kind of speechless after that film. So I just want to hear from you three. How are you feeling, and what comes to mind right now?
I would like to share that I'm just so honored and so proud of my cousin, Debra Sparrow, for really weaving this path for so many weavers in so many of our communities, even beyond Musqueam, Squamish, and səlilwətaЛ. We have seeds that have been planted and that are being watered and nurtured all over Coast Salish territory and beyond. And the enrichment that comes from the weaving work is beyond the weaving itself, because our weavers are really holders of knowledge. So it's a really beautiful thing. And I just feel like really touched to have witnessed this video come to fruition and to have just a little bit of that rich history and knowledge shared. And yeah, I'm just in awe of the work, and it's really well done to the team. It's just, for those listening, it's our first time seeing it as well. So I'm really in awe of the work, and it speaks volumes to the impact that our traditional practice of weaving can have on us all. So I'll stop there for now so we can hear from the other weavers. Hi, xʷməthkվəy, CM.
Any thoughts, Chief Janice? How are you feeling right now? Oh, you're on mute, sorry.
I couldn't hear it. I was turning up the volume, and for some reason so I put my ear real close to try and hear. But the images are so beautiful. It's so well done, the photography, and it's real. And it was really an honor to be involved in this project. And I think it's really great because I feel like, the weavers that worked on it have been working on promoting Coast Salish weaving and sale for a long time. And, you know, I feel like it's it feels like a feminist statement, but I feel like male art has been highly recognized for so long that female art has not really been recognized for the art it is, and that women have, you know, as well been doing since the beginning of time, you know, having worked in museums and looked at many artifacts and studied our cultural objects, that there's quite often names put to the art that the men have done, and then, you know, the weavings and the baskets and the, you know, the robes, they never have a name to them. So I feel like, you know, it's really time that it is recognized, and to be able to talk about the spirituality part of it. For so long, Coast Salish have been held the spirituality so close to ourselves, and I think that's part of why we haven't, you know, like shared as much as we could have, you know, because of that spiritual part is so important and it's so precious for our people. And having talked to the elders and found out from them what's okay to share, and how, you know, how much you can share, I think it's really amazing to be able to share the energy that comes from the weavings, and the old weavings and the weavings that we're creating today, the energy that's out there for everyone. And as I was saying before, you know, that energy is so strong. And you know, I hope people can open their heart and mind and feel that energy, and be able to keep their mind and heart open to feel the energy, you know, from the land, from the ancestors that walked this place and left their prayers and their love for these generations that are here today and the future generations. And, you know, I feel like as weavers and artists that we are leaving our energy here for the future generations as well.
Musqueam, Chief Janice and Ange, I want to hold my hands up to both of you for being with us, being all of us together. The three of us is so very valuable. And I know each one of us have been on journeys individually. You know, I started mine some 35 years ago, and Jan, I know you've been working hard in Squamish for, can't quote you, how many years? How many years is it?
18.
18. And Ange, you've been working hard in Tsleil-Waututh for the years you have. So that's how many years now?
10 years.
10 years. So each one of us have been on our individual paths, doing what we feel is important in our communities, and very much sometimes alone, except for, of course, you're stateless as both of you. This is mine back here. For those of you that don't know what that word is, it's husband, mate. And I will say this is my passion. I'm like the men, I'm married to my work. But for Buddy as well. And we have been on our sort of own paths, and I'm so deeply, deeply honored for us to come together in such a way. And I truly believe and know that it is our ancestors who have moved us to come back to who we really always have been. And that's the important thing, is we have reconnected, we've spun ourselves together again, and we're creating in this modern world that true value of who we are as human beings, as spirits. And that's what that place, and we have to look for a new name for it. We can't keep calling it Cathedral Square. We'll forever be haunted when we look across the street, and a reminder of what happened to us over this last 100 and some odd 50 years. So I think it should be renamed, and I think the Parks Board's looking at that. I think you mentioned Adrian. And I think that the story is really just unraveling. So instead of looking at a blanket as, you know, the whole, we're actually going to unravel all the stories now together. And I think this is the beginning of us telling our stories in the most powerful way that we can. And it's an honor to get to know Chris and Ollie, and to trust them with our vision, to trust that they also as filmmakers have an eye that goes beyond the humanness of all of us in this world that we live in, so that those stories can be told in the way that they should be. And the only one hiccup I had was that they didn't have a hairdresser. And so I always had to fix my own hair. So, and so, you know, that was important for our women, for all women. And Jan talked about feminism, and I'm like, I'm actually worried about my hair when I'm usually not. So I brought Allie along on one of them so she could make sure she always fixed the hair too. And then when we were filming in the Longhouses, remember, Jan, I fixed your hair. So, you know, those are the things that are fun as well, and things that are, you know, worldly, and we're here in this world that we live in, and we're going to make the way to re-educate Vancouver, especially because this is where we live. This is where they live. This is our home and our land, and this is the way we're going to invite them into our vision, because this wonderful rapper singer that I've come to know said, you have to invite somebody into your vision, and if you don't, then you can't be mad at them. And I was like, wow, that's like really powerful, because the other really powerful, of course, statement I love to always use and refer to is, without a vision, you know, people perish. And that was the goal of the government, we know, is to take the vision away from our chiefs, so that they were able to assimilate us into residential school where our visions were dimmed. And so when we talk about the blankets, they weren't really taken away from us. They were put to sleep in all those museums, and they've woken up, and they're waking up, and they're coming back across the water to all of us to give us the responsibility of introducing them to this world, but not only this world, to our own people as well, because, you know, over the 35 years working with my sister Wendy and my sister Robin and other weavers in my community, Krista Point, Gary, Lewis, the trickle effect has been a little bit slow, but we see it in your communities. We see it so powerfully, so much more also in the US. And the interesting thing about the United States border is that it wasn't there before. So right down that coast, they were all just Salish people. There was no American Salish or Canadian Salish. We were all Salish. And as we go across the water to Victoria and right up to Comox, again, it's all Salish. And so, you know, it covered a vast amount of people, and it's making its way back to all of us. And in doing so, we re-educate ourselves in this really awfully trying times where COVID has put us at a stop, and we have to stand still in who we are. And so this is the time we stand on our blankets, we wrap in our blankets, and we feel a sense of faith that also the contemporary world we live in, that the scientists are doing their jobs, they're standing in who they are, and they're creating for us a way out to heal again. And I just want to say that if we don't learn something from COVID this last year, when will we ever? And also ending with the 215 that were first found, the children who have awoken us, and honoring how we are going to put them back in their rightful places and honor that. It's been heart-wrenching for everybody. And we know very well that the spirit of our people has to be sacred. And if we could go to work very quickly and make 200 little baby blankets, we would. and wrap them and put them to sleep the right way. So since we couldn't do that, we decided that if we did a spindle whorl design that sort of echoed the church across the street and honored those 215, and Ange went up, she's so brave. And I sent my grandsons instead, and we sent, what's Chrissy's ex? Up the ladder as well from Tsleil-Waututh, Jordan, right, Jordan? To honor all of those children and forever remind us of the history between ourselves and the people across the street. So I think we have many more stories to tell, and I really want to also acknowledge Adrian in our conversations for the last 3 years, and Dave and Gabe, who we've worked with as well. We did our designing, turned it over to Gabe, and he prepared it for the pillars, and to honor and thank the painters who came forward and worked on those beautiful pillars. And they're there for all of us, and it brings a sense of togetherness for our 3 tribes, as well as loaning the city of Vancouver part of our culture. And after everything that's happened, we're still standing in the integrity that we have and always have had. And so we hope that when people look at those pillars, they're reminded of that integrity, and that we are probably just beginning. And it's been a wonderful responsibility on behalf of our ancestors who have accommodated us, who ask us to never forget them, to always be standing beside us now. Your ancestors as well, for whatever culture you come from, that you too begin to understand the value and the importance of never forgetting who you are and where you come from. So Hajka, I'll get off my soapbox that's in front of me.
Well, I just wanted to mention, Deborah, I just dropped into the chat a link to our website, and it shows, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll get to the image of Tyler painting in the spindle whorl with the church behind it. You have to scroll down a little bit past the interviews with the 3 of you. But if folks want to scroll down, you'll sort of see the before photo, which is quite gray, and then you go lower, there's the 3 pillars, and then you'll see a picture of you, Deborah, standing, and then there's a ladder there. Is that sort of coming up? Yeah, so you'll see there. Yeah, I really think it's time to rename this park. I'm just gonna go on a limb and say that, like, it's just a name of where it's located next to. It doesn't have any specific history. There's no like person associated with the park. It's just Cathedral Square because it's close to it. So I'm really excited to find out the process around that. I don't actually know what the process is, but I do know that the Parks Vancouver is looking into renaming a bunch of parks, and actually they're unveiling a park at Richards this year, which is going to be the first park that's named by representatives of the 3 local nations. So it's really exciting. The Parks Board is taking a lot of sort of feedback to heart, and they're starting to work in collaboration with the nations. I don't have any particular insider look at that, but I do know that piece. And so this park, I think, there's so much healing that has to be done here, and the amount of community integration to make this thing happen. Like, you'll see pictures there of like Jordan Galley, he's Tsleil-Waututh, and Casey Hall, who's Bella Bella. So we have different nations helping out all together, working on this piece. There's also like Canadians of Japanese descent and like of European descent, all working together to bring this vision together. And I feel like, not to say that like, oh, everyone's helping, everything's all good, but what's really neat about this is that people are learning how to work together and to learn what the history is here on this land by doing, by immersing, by like being blanketed. Because big projects like this take, like, I don't know, 50, 60 people over multiple years. All those people talk to a bunch of other people, And then there's this huge experience where then people come to visit, they use the app to come learn about it. There's a plaque there. Like there's this, every day this is out there and people are seeing it and driving by it. Like it's on one of the most major streets to go downtown. So thousands of people are going by it every day, being like, what is that? I wonder what that is. I'd like to learn about that. And they approach it, and then there's a plaque and they can learn about it, and then they can go on the app. So that's where my excitement comes, is this like permanent, like very accessible, inviting people in. It's inviting people in. That's something that I've learned from this project. Before I was thinking we have to tell people things, we have to show people things, and then they'll get it. But I'm realizing from this project, I've learned from the three of you that we have to invite people in. And I think that's what's happening right now. And everyone's at their own pace, learning at their own pace. But you can, once you start to see it, you move towards it, and then there's so much more that people can learn. So that's my feedback right now. That's what I'm feeling right now, is that the more we build these in the city, in the high profile areas where it's loud and proud, the more people will just feel surrounded by this beauty and this information. So it's a kind of beauty and information working together. So I'm feeling really optimistic, but that's just the way I wake up in the morning. So I don't think that's anything new, but I'm feeling really optimistic right now about this, even though the issues that you've spoken about, all three of you, are like very challenging issues. We're here to, as a community in Vancouver, to support this vision. I think, and a lot of people are supporting it more and more each day, I hope. So.
Yeah, if I might just step in and say that actual area too was built in 1986 for Expo. And across the water, we were at Expo for the whole time that it was there. And I didn't even know that Cathedral Square was built for that same purpose. And so it's really, interesting that it comes back. And I just wanted to also quickly mention that, one of my thought processes all these last years has been that, when you go to any country in the world, you see their culture and history through their art. You want to travel that territory and you want to see who those people are. And I think that's, even as a young girl going down on the bus to Stanley Park and looking around the city and being very aware at that time that, of course, I'm sure Ange and Jan feel the same way, that we were not there. Where are we? And so as this all evolves, I began to think, man, it would be really nice to see, our identity there. We had the identity of our northern friends, the Kwagil, the Haida, the Tsimshian. They showed up, they were around. You have the Billary Gallery, but where are we? And then when I saw your Mural Fest as well, I admired the artists, all of you artists involved with the Mural Fest, doing all your beautiful work that reflects how you feel, how you see your world. And then I thought, but we need to be there. And that's when I came across, of course, you, Adrian, and gave you a quick call to say, or email, like, where's Musqueam? And I should have had where's Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh, because, we are all related. We are all family, and elements that we do, textiles that we do, they're all interwoven together, and they all reflect our history. And so, we'll share a little bit of our history with this place called Vancouver. The land we have. And just for your information, my grandson was walking along the river last week, and he was gifted in the mud, deep in the mud, this basket that showed itself. And he spent 2 hours clearing the black mud away, and he came home with all mud all over him, and he said, come and see what I have. And I was busy working, and I got up and walked towards him, and he was black. He had black mud everywhere, and then this beautiful black muddy basket. And I was like in awe of it, because I've seen a lot of baskets in my travels, I'm sure Jan and Ange have, and I've never seen one that fine. I've never, and I was shocked. And we took it to the museum, and they're part of the way cleaning it. And we went out into the museum to look for something similar. And we found remnants of one that was found by up the river here by Glenrose Cannery, they call it now, but it was one of our villages. It was 4,000 years old. So we know that our people have lived in this area and then over by Jericho for 9,000 years. And so let's start telling the history here. Let's tell the truth here. we're going to call this unceded territory, if we're going to be acknowledged by the mayor that, you know, this is what it is, then these are the stories that go with it. This is the history and the education that's going to be told through these pillars, through the work we'll continue to do. And I know that Ange and Jan have many projects they're working on, and I do, and we'll keep going. And so do our male, you know, relatives in all of our communities. Well, the houseboats are going up, the canoes are in the water again. Well, they've been. And so our identity, parts of it we'll share.
We got a question here from the audience. The question is, are you starting to see a lot more uptake of the weaving practice amongst the younger generations? I know all three of you are involved in mentorship, so I'd love to hear what. That's a great question.
Oh, Jan, you're on mute again.
When we started weaving, our intent was to come back and teach, because it was 2003 when we went to learn to weave. And at that time, Vancouver was putting in for the 2010 Olympics, and we knew that the three nations were going to be, or there's four, the four nations were going to be hosts. And I talk about feminism, but at the time I was worried about what we were going to wear and how we're going to represent ourselves to the world and show the world the beauty of Coast Salish people and what our genius, intelligent, creative ancestors, what they did to, for ceremony. We wanted to show the world that. So we worked literally day and night in our community to teach and dress Squamish people. So it was exciting, and it still is. It still feels the same. I still feel that excitement about it, and especially about teaching. I feel like it's something that I was meant to do, be a teacher, and I just I love it. So yeah.
I can chime in a bit on that as well. I also really believe in sharing the knowledge, and I think that a lot like my relations, Debra and Chief Janice, is that we have as weavers a role and responsibilities that we carry to reach back into time through our looms. They're like portals. When we sit in front of the loom, we learn and we absorb what we can in through the practice. We say when we sit and weave that our ancestors will come and weave through our hands, if we're coming to the loom with the right intention. And I think that's a part of the role and responsibility as a weaver, is to really express that knowledge that is held in the weavings. And so that the practice of learning and then turning around and teaching. So it's being open to be apprenticed and then apprenticing younger ones. And so I've learned a lot from both Janice and Debra about weaving, and I'm just so grateful for them for really paving the way for me and many, many other weavers. And I feel a great sense of responsibility to carry that on, because my late mother attended residential school and then later turned into a day school, and they weren't allowed to practice culture. So I recall her saying somewhere in her 30s, she was, 30, I would guess she was about 34 or 35 years old. And she was driving and I was riding with her in the car, and she just turned and said, I always wanted to learn how to weave. And it just came out of the blue. And she really never said much more about it. She had an old weaving, and it was long after she passed away that I came to realize that I have to learn how to weave, and that this is a part of my gift. And we know as Coast Salish people, when we're born, our ancestors had very sophisticated systems and structures in place. And a part of those systems and structures was how we educate. The ancestors, the elders would take a baby, and they would, when a baby was born, they could hold that baby, an auntie or a grandma, an elder in the community, and identify what that child's gift is going to be. And then they would wrap around that child a whole system, a way of educating to nurture that gift. And so as a weaver now, I realize that's a big part of my gift, is to really nurture that and find people like these good women here to help me to nurture that gift, so that I'm able to turn around and ensure that I'm upholding this in a way that's going to sustain for my grandchildren's grandchildren that I'll never meet, but they will wrap themselves in my weavings. They will be taught by somebody who I've taught, or somebody who has been taught by somebody that I've taught. And we're all so interconnected that way. And that is a part of that system, how we sustain knowledge, even through colonization. That's how our knowledge has been sustained. A very sophisticated way of holding knowledge. When we sit in front of those beautiful weavings that you see behind my relatives there, those will speak to us if we will open up and listen. So for me, that is, when you talk about teaching weaving, that's what it's all about. And when you stand in front of those pillars at Cathedral Park, which we will soon be renaming, when you go
Formerly known as. Yeah.
Formerly known as.
Yeah.
When you go there, you know, that's just like coming and standing in front of our loom. That's the portal to those teachings, all of that rich history. The designs that are in there are holding the knowledge about those systems and structures that our people of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh have had and continue to maintain. And that's the beauty of it. That's the importance of it. And to work with the good folks at Vancouver Mural Fest, and to these amazingly talented videographers, you know, to bring this to life is just such a beautiful thing, you know, to make sure that this is accessible to everybody, because it's rich history of this land that we now call Vancouver. And it's important that this is brought out and held and upheld in a way that makes sense for everybody.
If it's okay with everyone, I'd just love to, like, maybe we said till 8, but if it's okay to 8:10, because we have a couple of really good questions. Is that all right with the panelists?
Yeah.
Okay, great. This is great. Thank you. So I have a question here, which is, where do you see the future of collaborative artworks amongst MST artists and knowledge keepers?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, I think for a lot of new designers, they have a different vision, and that's a given, because we live in a different world. And had you asked me to do a mural 20 years ago, I wouldn't have done it, because I felt like I had to really understand design first. And I don't mean design as we know it today. I mean, how did our women create these beautiful patterns? We had nobody to ask. We had nobody to reference. So we worked at, bless Barb Caillou's heart. She really took the forefront on figuring out how to pattern, and we all watched her in amazement, and we all were in awe of the women who existed pre-contact, like the blanket behind me, and saying, wow, these women are amazing. And the intellect and the mathematical equations behind everything is in the universe as well, and in many cultures. So now we have, and we know the intelligence behind that. And so we had to refigure it all. And I wanted to be really steeped in it before I would even want to share it. So everything I make, you know, is comes into the world because it's been commissioned. Somebody's going to wear it, somebody's going to use it. It's very valuable. But there's also another part that's very contemporary now in our world, where if you can't wear it, then can we, you know, make a version that people can appreciate, like we blanketed you. So we stamp the commercial part of it, and we become balanced in the world now, so that some things are traditional and some things are contemporary. And then because I did, you know, graphics and jewelry for 10 years before weaving, combining different elements together and creating patterns that will be a modern day reference, and they can move in different directions. And would we keep moving had we not stopped for 80 some odd years? What would we be doing? And so those are the questions I ask myself, and I'm sure my friends do, my cousins do. And we need to reestablish our vision. And so taking them out of their elements and then putting them up onto that first mural under the ground bridge was like, you know, I hold my hands up to knowing that our ancestors are watching us and that we're doing this for them too. We're not doing this just for ourselves. We're not doing it for our individuals. We're doing it to reestablish, you know, how we see how we're going to move into the future and balance. We all have to balance, all of us. And so all the mural painters that you work with bring their patterns, bring their designs, and we recognize triangles in every culture. We recognize those zigzags in every culture, but it's how we as Salish women, men, put our patterns together that makes us unique to who we are. And that's the value of, to me, being unique and still being able to have a relationship so that you respect the uniqueness. And then in the modern, you know, you're adapting to change. But for every step we take forward now, we know through COVID, we have to go back too. We have to go back and we have to keep some of those very important knowledges that we threw to the wayside because we thought they were too romanticized or they weren't important to mainstream society's way of thinking. And so we, you know, put them over there and they want us to go over there. Well, we always stayed there. We're the ones who it's Louis Real said, our people are going to sleep for 100 some odd years. And it's the artists who are going to reawaken the spirit in the world. So across the whole world, all of us.
I have a couple other questions, but if you other two want to sort of chat about that at all, do you have any sort of thoughts about that?
Well, I feel like the future is it's so open, as you know, for MST and for artists to work together, which you know they already are, and the universal, well, Salish universal, you know, thing about the weavings is that, you know, they're first of all, I feel like as weavers, what we did was we created a foundation. Like in a ceremony, the first thing you see is a weaving being put on the floor, and it creates a pure space. And I feel like that's a strong foundation for our people. And I feel like the three of us, you know, and I'm a little bit worried about speaking for, but I think the three of us has, you know, been so steeped in our communities and, you know, working at bringing this back and in our communities, and not just the techniques, but the meanings behind it. It's a whole, it's not just the techniques that are involved. And I feel like it's building such a strong foundation for our youth. And our youth, they're fearless, you know, in our generations, you know, just the generation before us, they went to residential school and they weren't allowed to learn this. I went to day school. I wasn't, you know, we weren't taught this. You know, my grandmother went to residential school. She was not allowed to practice her culture. So I feel like once we can bring something back to our hearts and minds and spirits, and be able to share it with our people first, and have our people welcome back in the right way that knowledge and those good feelings in their heart and soul and spirit. I think we can share with everyone, you know, and I think it benefits everyone to understand how you take care of your spirit, you know, how you can connect to the land through that. And that's so important that we do that. We all do that, because you know, it's so worrisome to look outside and see the smoke in the air and the water so polluted you can't go in the water, and there's all these things happening where people are losing their connection to the land. They don't understand how important it is to take care of this beautiful, beautiful place that we live in, and that our ancestors took care for, you know, for us. I always say I'm so amazed to look out the window or look out the door every morning and see what the ancestors have done for me. See what they have left for me. What I can walk out the door and those ancestors, they did that for me. You know, this beautiful land that we live on, that maybe we're not taking care of the way we can. I think it's part of this whole foundation that all goes together. When we open our hearts and minds and learn from those teachings, those beautiful teachings that we're bringing forward today and sharing with the world, I think we could all benefit from it.
Thanks, Chief Janice. That's so well said. And actually, it's a good segue to the next question, which is for the filmmakers. So like, what approach did you take to capture like these things that Janice and Debra and Andrew bringing up? Like, clearly there's so much here. And like, there's so many pieces, like, you know, you have constraints, you have like time constraints, budget constraints, like length of film constraint, all the things. And I personally know, just so everyone knows, we gave them a good budget for a 2-minute film, basically. And these guys just put all of their, like a really good budget for a 2 or 3 minute film, but these guys just went full in. Like it's all they've lived and slept and breathed for basically 3 months. And it's been amazing to watch. And so they went all in, and I just would love to hear from you guys. Like how did you decide to hold this in a narrative that folks from a broad audience, plus also to respect the specificity of these stories? I think that's something for me that's really amazing, is that when I watch it, I'm seeing the specificness of the work, but also the universality without watering it down. So I just wanted to sort of say that's what I recognize, but also how did you go about that, and what was your process? And maybe other filmmakers that are watching could hear from you, and so they can learn from what you learned. Maybe like you made a mistake at some point and then you realized you had to change your process or something like that, or maybe you know, something like that. Maybe like could be relatable for folks that want to create more archive, so that people can build on this archive and build more and more story and more knowledge that's respectful, but also to a broad audience. I think that's really interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think Debra can speak of this as well. I think we pretty much almost moved into Debra's house for 3 weeks.
We had a camper parked outside.
Yeah, and the thing with projects like this, and this is the, you know, the approach that we have with things like this, is that you kind of like, yes, you're a filmmaker, but you have to put the filmmaker hat on the side for a little bit, and you have to just be human, right? And I think that's the main important thing here, is that you need to have the right intentions for why you're doing it, right? We started talking with Debra back in December last year. So there is an extensive process, right, of trying to understand, you know, a story properly before thinking, oh, let's go and shoot this, let's go and do that, and let's start putting ideas and shots together. Like that comes after. Like, you need to understand, what are we doing here first, right? And what is the message that you're trying to convey, right? And that you do it through multiple conversations, right? I was in Berlin when I started talking with Debra, and then I came back, and then we kept talking. We kept going for walks with Ollie and Debra, coffees, and you know, interviews that we still recorded, because we knew that, you know, in this kind of like casual conversations, right, you end up getting maybe things that you wouldn't get when you're shooting an interview, let's say on the set day, when there's a crew of 10 people and there's lights everywhere, right? So really put an emphasis on those moments. I think it helps to be able to come up with a story that is truthful, and that is honest, and that it actually honors the story of your subject. So that for us is super important. Another thing,
I think, yeah, one thing that both me and Chris has been very apparent on this journey, is that, you know, we appreciate that we don't understand everything. You know, sitting down and speaking with Debra and Janice and as well, you know, we've learned so much over this process. I think even the first conversation I had with Debra, I made the mistake of calling it her craft, and she very quickly sat me down and said that it was not her craft.
It's not a craft, no.
So yeah, just constantly learning and you know, recording everything and knowing as the story unfolds what are the bits to focus on and everything like that. So it was a journey. That's
yeah. And I mean, I guess one of the like the question was, are there any moments that kind of like you can remember that were highlighted during production? One thing that really stood with us was we had prepared a series of portraits in Musqueam next to the river by sunset time, and we had this whole idea of how it was going to look, what it was going to be, right? And you kind of like have an idea of how things are going to go, but then when you're doing a documentary, things never go the way you want to go, right? So as usual. And we were driving in towards the river from Debra's house. The river's not too far, right? It's a little gravel road, you end up in the river. And as we're going towards the river, the entire canoe club was standing right at the entrance, right? So they see these two strangers, right? And of course, first reaction is like, kind of like, you know, what are you guys doing here, right? And of course, we respectfully explained we're doing a documentary with Debra. We're gonna go, you know, to shoot some portraits by the river and stuff. It's like, oh, okay, no worries, you know, come in. We set up, and then we had it was Debra's relatives. They were coming for the portrait, and as we're doing the portraits, the entire canoe club showed up for the portrait session. So now, out of nowhere, we have
too many people.
Almost like, but in the best possible way, right? It felt like entire Musqueam showed up. Of course, not everyone, but it felt like that, and it was this magical moment that is sunset time, and you know, us laughing and smiling, and that energy is something that you can't prepare for. You can't stage that, and we ended up with, I think, some of the most beautiful portraits we've got recorded in our careers. And yeah, it's one of those things that you can prepare for, right? So moments like that, I think for us are something that's special. Yeah, special moments. And even Corey, who was our gaffer in the project, he's First Nations as well. And after the shoot, he told me, he said, Chris, like, this is what being First Nation means to me, basically. It's this community, right? It's seeing this, right? And things like that, to hear that from someone from the community, that's our payment, I guess, you know, to hear you know, someone expressing something like that, it makes our job not a job, basically, right? So yeah, those are kind of moments that we take. And yeah, and I guess just thanking everyone. Debra, we can't thank you enough. You know, I don't know at what point we were literally almost living with you, but yeah, you opened the doors, and same with Janice and Ange. Super thankful for being a part of it and
trusting us.
Trusting us, yeah, because we are vision. You know, we understand that we thought we knew something before we started the project, and we finished the project understanding that we don't know anything, basically. Yeah, and that there is a lot of work to do, right? And I think that is the whole purpose of a project like this, is for us, for other people to, you know, to start learning, to start understanding, you know, the history of the First Nation people here, but that the process itself had that effect on us, right? And that motivates us to keep doing projects like this. So huge learning experience, and one that will, yeah, I mean, this is just the beginning. Like Debra said, I think there's so many more stories we could be doing, and we gotta start somewhere, right? So this is somewhere for us. And last but not least, say Debra, the hot bannock and the salmon definitely have been the highlight of the production. We'll come back for more. Yeah.
And Adrian, I just want to add, Chris and Ollie, I saved them a lot of money because they didn't have a hairdresser.
Yeah.
I was fired. Anyway. You fired.
I think I got fired maybe 10 times.
Yeah, you did.
Somehow managed to turn up the next day.
Yeah.
But, we didn't have to touch your hair because it was looking great. We thought it was looking great.
Luckily, we had Ali there.
You thought so, but it wasn't, so I had to fire you.
Well, I just gotta say, this has been incredible. We could keep this going, but let's want to respect everyone's time. I just want to say, we're going to keep blanketing the city. This is not, I mean, we're commitment here. We're in massive commitment of this. It's been 3 years, 4 years of planning, I guess. And we're going to keep going. There's a lot more to be done, and we have a lot of energy for this and a lot of interest, and we're building a movement together. This is happening. This is happening in a big way, and the Mural Festival, myself especially, like I'm looking for feedback, ideas, routes, ways of making this happen. This is, as much as it's like it's big. This is really, really important, and this is how the Mural Fest can serve. But this is also a call to other organizations in the city itself, Vancouver, to take this up and to see the opportunity that this is. It's a massive opportunity, and this is going to keep going. We're not going to stop until we blanket the city. And there's a lot of city left, and it can change, it can evolve, it could transform. So I'm really excited about that, and I guess we have to sign it off now. It's over. I've been looking forward to this for like 5 months, so I guess it's over now. But it's not over. I guess the talk is over, but the movement continues. And there's more questions. So maybe what we'll do is I'll put these questions together, and I'll just send them to the three weavers, the three women here, and then we'll get some questions back, and maybe we'll do a post on our page in the next week once I get a nap or two, I think. So there's any other last things that you all wanted to mention before we close?
Oh yeah, I just put on the chat that I have a TEDx talk being released on September 12th.
Yeah, so cool. That's amazing. Congratulations. That's gonna be so great.
Yeah.
So we can tune in. We can just tune in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll have we'll be on your website, I guess, by then as well.
Yeah.
Great. Amazing. That is so cool. Are you ready? Are you already have it all written out? It's all ready to go?
You did it already, didn't you, Jan?
Yeah.
Yeah. She did it
Amazing.
already. It's been recorded.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, any other thoughts?
Nope.
All right. Well, great. Well, thanks everybody, and I guess this is it, and we'll see y'all soon.
For sure.
Okay, bye bye.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.